Hello and welcome to round 4 of this PPTQ KYOTO match. We've got Kerr on the left, Andrew on the right. I'm Paul Mitchell. This is Julian Toe. How are you going, Julian?
I'm doing well, thank you. Yeah, it's great to be at General Games, the host of this event. Where had some things that we couldn't cast round 1 to 3, but we're starting in round 4. This is the table that's decided not to ID.
Yep.
Yep. And what matchup do we have here?
So we've got the list in front of us now. This is the 4-color Saheeli Mirror. And we're already underway. Looks like Andrew was on the play with a turn 1 Attune with Aether and turn 2 Harness Lightning, taking down Kerr's turn 2 Servant of the Conduit.
A 7 conduit is very important in this matchup because it lets you deploy a Planeswalker or 4-drop first.
Absolutely. Yep.
But because of the Harness Lightning, that plan's gone away, and Andrew's deployed the first threat of the board with a Rogue Refiner.
Yeah, absolutely. So now it looks like Kerr's drawn for his third turn and is just going to Oath of Chandra away that Rogue Refiner. Ooh, and an Oath of Nissa. So all the oaths are coming out here.
Yeah. And if Andrew looks to follow his third turn play with another fourth turn creature, it's vulnerable to a Felidar Guardian Blink on the Oath of Chandra from Kerr.
Yep. And it also poses an interesting question for Andrew if he does have, looks like he has at least one copy of Saheeli Ra in his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And with that Oath of Chandra already on the table, if he were thinking about deploying that Chandra, he'd have to be thinking about additional damage that might be coming his way.
Absolutely. Yeah, Kerr we see in this deck has 3 Chandras, 1 Temur, and of course 4 Saheelis. So that's 8 cards that he could play on turn 4 that would damage Andrew's Planeswalker were he to play it this turn. But he appears to have either not had a Planeswalker or chosen not to play it to play around Oath because he's playing another Rogue Refiner, drawing another card and going up to 8 energy, I believe.
Yep.
And Kerr now, of course,
here comes
does
that
play
Planeswalker.
Planes, but he decides to play a Chandra. If you had Chandra and Felidar Guardian in your hand here, would you rather play the Chandra or the Guardian to blink the Oath to kill the Rogue Refiner?
We can see now that Kerr has opted for the Chandra because of the +1 to make 2 red energy and Harness Lightning ability. So, given the composition of his hand, absolutely the Chandra to play that into a clear board, followed up with 2 damage to Andrew's face thanks to the Oath, and then passing it back. So Kerr with 3 more permanents on the battlefield. We can see him arranging his Oaths nicely there.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see what Andrew's response is on this turn.
So Andrew's really looking to get rid of this Chandra now because if that sticks and draws Kerr say another 3 extra cards, he's just going to be overwhelmed in card advantage.
Yep.
To be fair, he has drawn 2 cards off Rogue Refiner.
Sure.
And both those cards, one of them was dealt with a Harness Lightning, but the other one was dealt with an Oath. So Kerr is in a sense down on cards, but with the Chandra, he's really not worried about that, is he?
Yep. And it looks like Kerr has 3 cards in hand to Andrew's 5. So we'll see how Andrew decides to take this turn. We're going to start with an Oath, Attune with Aether. Sorry, the Oath of Nissa and the Attune with Aether with very similar art.
Yeah, pictures of Nissa glaring to the distance.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're pretty much the same thing that get you a land, really.
Yeah. I've heard Oath of Nissa sometimes gets you Planeswalkers.
Oh. Sometimes lucky.
So we're going to get a Plains here. Of course, Andrew has already played his land for turn.
Also, notice here that Kerr has actually 2 lands in hand as well as a Saheeli. So despite having the Chandra as an engine to get more cards, he's really looking for it to get back to parity because 2 of the cards in his hand are pretty much dead.
Yep, and here's one of the best cards in the mirror for pressuring Planeswalkers, Whirl of Virtuoso, and that puts Andrew up to what looks like 12 energy.
So that's 4 Thopters that he can make now?
Absolutely, so spot removal not going to get the job done here. If Kerr does deploy Saheeli and with his Chandra in play and not find a suitable answer, these Planeswalkers are going to be coming under massive threat here from an aerial assault from Andrew.
So here we have Kerr playing the Saheeli first to scry before deciding what to do with Chandra. Of course, scries a card to the bottom, so he's got a decision now. Does he want to, I believe, 0 the Chandra to reveal the top card of your library? Or does he want to, use the removal on the Virtuoso and force Andrew to make 4 tokens immediately and not give him the option, of doing other things with his energy?
Well, it looks like he's got Mountain and Rogue Refiner as the last 2 cards in his hand.
So he drew the Rogue Refiner for that turn, did he?
Yep.
And he does opt to use the -3 ability on Chandra to try and kill the Virtuoso. That ability is now on the stack, and Andrew has the option to make anything from 0 to 4 Thopters.
Was there any consideration in Andrew's seat currently where you would make fewer than 4 Thopters?
It's possible that you make maybe 2, because a 2 is all you need to kill the Chandra. But if there's another removal spell, then you want to make the 3rd for security.
Yep.
But here we have Andrew opting to, decide to expend all his energy, It's entirely possible that he wants to kill the Saheeli, or maybe he just doesn't have energy using cards in his hand, and that energy is just a wasted resource if he doesn't use it right now.
Yeah, I like in this kind of situation, if Andrew has or finds a Harness Lightning, having one energy in reserve allows you to kill a Felidar Guardian, which protects you from the combo, whereas having 0 energy doesn't. But he's already so far behind on board, facing down 2 Planeswalkers, that it seems his priority is just dealing with what's in front of him now and focus on the combo later. Of course, he does have 4 attackers, as you pointed out, so he can also attack Saheeli Ryan and maybe take that option away from Kerr.
Yeah.
And it looks like that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah, if he kills Saheeli Ryan, you don't really have to worry about the Felidar Guardian as much.
Yep. So the follow-up play from Andrew here. He's thinking about the Rogue Refiner in his hand.
A third one.
Gonna lead on the Saheeli, right?
Saheeli. So this is his first Saheeli of the game, I believe. Yep.
It's like we're ticking that up to Scry. Can't see what that card is quite.
Is it? I think he's chosen not to redirect the damage from the Saheeli's ability to the Chandra.
Interesting. Maybe he feels he has a handle on it already with the Thopters. Yeah. And here's that Rogue Refiner.
It might just... It's entirely possible it's something that he just hasn't thought about. Like, not to rag on Andrew, but when I think of Saheeli's first ability, I think of Scry. Like, I don't really care whether I'm dealing damage or not, especially in this deck where the damage actually, not mostly, but often doesn't matter if you're using the combo.
Yep.
So really it's full the Scry ability.
And also, if the Chandra ticks up here, which it's very likely to do, it'll be on 3 loyalty, and then if the Rogue Refiner gets through unblocked on the Chandra, that'll take that cleanly anyway.
Yeah.
So here we see a Rogue Refiner from Kerr. Looks like 3 lands in hand, so we're going to plus that Chandra, see if we can find some more action.
Please be a spell. Another Rogue Refiner.
Oh no, and I think Kerr didn't play a land out of his hand first, which prevents him from casting this Rogue Refiner.
Oh no, the new Chandra you have to cast the card immediately, don't you?
Yes, exactly. So if he had played... well, would he have been able to? Yeah, if he'd played the Aether Hub first, then he would have been able to cast the Rogue Refiner. As it stands, it'll represent 2 damage to that Saheeli Ryan past the turn.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate for Kerr. Yeah. Just these especially in the mirror match, it's these small edges that if you miss out on, you slowly get behind. It's these sort of plays that define the matchup.
Yeah, and judging from the board state 3 turns ago or so, we maybe thought that Kerr had a slight advantage, but maybe wasn't able to capitalize on that. And now we see Kerr's draw sputtering out a little bit with 2 hands left in hand, while Andrew still has plenty to do with his mana.
Yeah, I definitely look like I would definitely say that Andrew is starting to get very firm control of this game. I mean, he doesn't know that Kerr's got 2 lands in hand.
Yep.
But I think he's figured out that even if the cards in Kerr's hand are spells, they're not particularly good ones or ones that aren't relevant for this situation because he hasn't done anything for a couple of turns.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we see the tokens take out the Chandra, and I think the Rogue Refiner's gotten through, and with Kerr opting not to block, which also makes sense because if Kerr draws a Felidar Guardian, he'd want to use on the Rogue Refiner.
Yeah, he's got a couple of other options there in the Oath of Chandra and the Oath of Nissa, but with all those flyers, the 1/1 Thopters, then that's the real threat in this state. So the Oath of Chandra taking out 1 creature doesn't necessarily deal with the Thopter threat.
Yeah.
So I think Kerr's best draw here is probably his own Will of Virtuoso to help get that under control.
Yeah, he's got, I think, 7 energy. So, yeah, I think he's more interested in drawing cards to deal with the board as opposed to just, blinking an Oath to kill a random creature.
Yeah. So here we see another Will of Virtuoso from Andrew, leaving up 2 mana to represent Harness Lightning, which he does have in his hand, it looks like. That and another copy of Saheeli Raya.
And it seems Kerr's drawn another land for the turn. So that's, I think, 5 lands in a row that he's drawn.
Yeah, it hasn't been good. I mean, there was that Rogue Refiner on top of his deck, which was forced to be exiled.
Yeah.
So that would have been nice, but looks like it would have only found more lands.
Yeah.
So we're going to see a massive attack here from Andrew this turn.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also interesting to note that neither Kerr nor Andrew have Walking Ballista in their decks, which is a recent innovation from last week at one of the GPs. I think the one in South America.
Yep.
And, Walking Ballista is a card that, could sort of get Kerr out of this situation. He's got 7 mana plus a land in hand. So you could play a Walking Ballista for 8 mana, which is 4 counters, and that could deal with the Thopters, or, could start helping chip down Saheeli or Chandra. It sort of stems the bleeding and gives him another turn to stabilize. If he draws Ballista into Ballista, that might actually get him back into the game, but since he doesn't have them in his deck, he can't lift them off the top. Yeah.
We almost could have even seen a minus of Saheeli Rai on the Rogue Refiner just to try and close this game out in 2 turns, but I think Andrew's lead here is so dominating that he's just ticking up his Planeswalkers, keep getting this advantage.
Yeah.
And,
I think it's...
looks like Kerr drew another land, and that'll do it for game 1 here.
I think Kerr's just. I think Andrew just realized that.
Oh, no! Wow. Okay, so he
That's-
would have seen another 3 lands. Quite
And
unfortunate.
like 6 mana sources on top of the deck. Yeah, it is kind of unfortunate for Kerr for that to happen. But in mirror matches, a lot of time they are defined by the kinds of hands that you draw and the order in which you draw your cards. Unfortunately. So going to sideboarding here, we've got a deck list in front of us. The main decks for these two players are very much similar. We only have like 1 or 2 cards difference. Andrew has a Tireless Tracker in the main, while Kerr has none. But I think it's in the sideboard that we really see, the big differences shine through. Andrew here has 2 authority, or one authority of the consoles for the mirror, and some vehicles as well as some counter magic. More Tireless Trackers, release the Gremlins. But Kerr here has those similar cards, but then also has 4 Walking Ballista.
Yeah, we're seeing him bring them in now, as well as multiple negates, which seem fantastic for this matchup.
Yeah, as we were just saying, Walking Ballista is definitely the defining card in this matchup, no matter what deck you're playing. We had a green-black, rely on it to not die to the combo, despite it being a weak matchup. We had Mardu decks adapt to play Walking Ballista to help with this matchup, amongst others. And now we see all the Saheeli decks, also not all of them, but some of them also playing Ballista to help win the mirror, because Saheeli and Mardu are the 2 big decks in standard right now.
Yep.
So it kind of makes sense that you'd play a deck that trumps. You'd play a card that trumps, at least one of those matchups.
Yeah, it seems a lot of decks have come to that conclusion where Walking Ballista does help you in multiple matchups, including against Saheeli. So I guess on one level, it's somewhat predictable that the Saheeli decks themselves would move to Ballista to help out in the mirror, and it seems that's where we're at in standard right now. Now, I saw Andrew take out at least 1 copy of Felidar Guardian, so it looks like he's moving more towards the value Planeswalker setup that a lot of these decks are moving towards as well. And we see Kerr. Let's see if he's taking out any of the combo.
We can't really see what he's taking out, but just from a theory crafting point of view, do you feel like...
Oh, we saw a Sky Sovereign come in for Kerr.
Oh, that's right. Yes, Kerr does have 1 Sky Sovereign in the sideboard, which Andrew does not.
Yep.
But do you feel like these mirrors are won more often by like a mid-range value plan, or more from the combo? Because we didn't see it in that game, but in a lot of the mirror matches I've observed, the board just gets really, really cluttered.
Yep.
This deck is just really good at doing that, and it needs to do that to compete with the green-black decks and the Mardu decks. But obviously, that becomes the side effect is that in the mirror, you both have this board full of lots of creatures. None of them are particularly big. None of them eat each other particularly well, because you have
Willa Virtuoso. Yep.
Willa Virtuoso, it just bounces off a Rogue Refiner. They all bounce off each other.
Yep.
Thopters just kill each other in the air, and of course, you don't want to be using a Harness Lightning on a Thopter. So both the boards just get really cluttered up while people are sitting on cards in their hand. So wouldn't you say that is more efficient in that situation to go for the combo?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think the counter argument there is the presence of Harness Lightning, which, as you mentioned, doesn't have a lot of good targets in this matchup. So you'll see in the mirror a lot of people holding on to their Harness Lightnings as a very precious commodity to say, well, this is my combo insurance. I'm not going to point it at Rogue Refiner that's already drawn me a card. I'm not going to point at a Wheel of Virtuoso that's just already made a bunch of Thopters. So I'm going to try and keep this card in hand because its only good target is the combo. Now, there are only 4 copies of that in the main deck and 0 shocks. So it's very possible that neither player draws a copy of Harness Lightning. But as we can see from Kerr's hand, he's kept it in. So I'm sure that barring another high-value target like maybe a Tireless Tracker, I'm fairly confident he'd be seeing that mostly as combo insurance. And we see him with the Wheel of Virtuosos here. Looks like both players have kept. And we've got a turn 1 Oath of Nissa for Kerr.
And Kerr, as we said earlier, has brought in the Walking Ballastas, and he's taken it as his card off the Oath of Nissa. Going back to what you said earlier, you said that Harness Lightning is a very precious commodity in this matchup. Would you say that maybe developing an overwhelming board baits out the opposing player's Harness Lightning, which then allows you to win instantly through the combo instead of having to further grind them out?
Yeah, and I think you can safely shave parts of the combo because it is somewhat predictable that the board will get to that kind of state. So if you have maybe 3 Saheelis or 3 Guardians, it's very likely with all the card manipulation that you will find the combo. It might be sitting in your hand, or maybe the Saheeli Rise on the board, and that you can put yourself in a position where the combo will come up once you draw out 1 or 2 Harness Lightnings.
If you were forced to take out an odd number of combo pieces, would you take out more more Saheeli's or more Felidar Guardians, given that you've got cards that interact with Felidar Guardian's ability a bit better?
Yeah, it's interesting. Both these players are on 4 Oath of Nissa, 3 Oath of Chandra, which are obviously work well with both the Guardian and the Planeswalkers, because you can have Felidar Guardian come down and blink one of them to get value, but also the Oaths themselves generate value by having the Planeswalkers. So I think, without having played this matchup extensively, I would lean towards keeping in Guardians, because it combos more with things like Rogue Refiners. But I could see an even split being more correct.
Yeah. It's also interesting to note that Saheeli's -2 ability interacts with creatures favorably the same way Felidar Guardian does.
So we see both players just playing out their single green search effects in Oath of Nissa and Attune with Aether. And now I think on the third turn we'll start to see some of the more board impacting plays like the Whirl of Virtuoso that Kerr's putting on the stack here.
Yeah. Did you notice whether Kerr had the Servant of the Conduit in his hand on turn 2?
I don't believe he had that. Otherwise, I think he would have been inclined to play that over the Ballista, which you can wait until later and put more counters on.
Yeah. Because if you had both those cards, surely...
I think he would lean towards the Servant of Conduit, yeah.
So being able to play like maybe a Chandra on turn 3 on the play is just too powerful to forgo.
So, yeah, my guess is that he drew that, but I can't recall exactly. So we're going to have the third Oath of Nissa coming out here. Sorry, Attune with Aether.
It is very confusing on camera.
Yep. Looks like Andrew doesn't have a shortage of land already in his hand as well, so these just cycling for more lands, but I don't think Andrew's going to miss his land drop for the next 4 turns. It looks like he's got plenty in his hand already. But he is building up his energy reserve there, so we'll see if he can put that to good use. Yeah,
he's got 6 energy now, so I think that's the first energy spell that he plays should be will be very powerful.
The Will of Virtuoso could come down and immediately represent 3 Thopters.
Yeah.
So here we see Oath of Chandra take out Kerr's Will of Virtuoso, leaving behind the Thopter. And with Kerr slightly ahead on board, he was able to attack for 2 here. As you say, these decks don't kill anyone blisteringly fast without the combo itself, so 2 damage a turn doesn't represent much when the game comes down more to grinding out value over the long term.
Yeah.
Which is likely to be Kerr's play here. Oh, he's missing his 4th land.
Yeah, Kerr's missing his 4th land drop, but he's got multiple 3 drops in hand as well as a Chandra. He's also got a Felidar Guardian. So, well, it's interesting that he went for the Well of Virtuoso there as opposed to the Servant of the Conduit, because the Servant of the Conduit means that he can play his Chandra next turn if it survives, and also if he doesn't draw a 4th land. But I think he's just trying to be mana efficient and just use the mana that he has, and then to play the Weller. While Andrew responds by playing his 4th land, not missing a land drop, obviously, playing a Felidar Guardian, blinking the Oath to kill the Well of Virtuoso, and of Kerr once again responds by making a Thopter.
Yep. So Kerr continuing to build out his aerial assault, but that walking ballista will be stopped by the 1/4 on Andrew's side on the ground. And Kerr does not draw land here, so we might see him playing out the Servant of the Conduit to guarantee a mana source for next turn if it goes unkilled. Or we also might see him play the Rogue Refiner he drew this turn, maybe to just
try and rip a land.
Try and rip a land and get mana that way. And as you said, he lent towards the mana efficient play last turn, so we'll see if he does the same this turn. Looks like he is.
Yeah, I don't think there's a clear right or wrong play there. It really just comes down to personal preference and what kind of risk you want to take. And I can't see Kerr unfortunately did not draw a land off that Rogue Refiner either.
No.
Well, otherwise he would have played it, obviously.
Yep.
But he really the next card that he draws off the top of his deck really is going to have a big impact on this board.
And here we can see the impact of Walking Ballista in these sideboarded games. Andrew has a Felidar Guardian sitting on the table and is playing an Oath of Nissa here. I think he has Saheeli Rye in his hand, but we'll have to double check that. But if he had, he's in a position where Kerr's tapped out. He could just slam the combo. Yeah, he does have Saheeli Rye in hand, but the fact that Walking Ballista is sitting on 1 counter on the other side of the table means that Andrew is not able to go for it, because he can just ping in response and take out that Planeswalker and interrupt the combo.
And if he were to expend a removal spell such as the Harness Lightning, he would no longer have that card as insurance against Kerr's own combo. Yeah, another interesting point is that when you're choosing to shave parts of the combo, you've got 2 cards you can cut. in addition to all the advantages and disadvantages we spoke earlier about the Felidar Guardian versus the Saheeli, is that the Felidar Guardian can block creatures on the ground very efficiently.
Yep.
There's no card that can get through it. Nothing naturally has 4 power in this deck.
No.
Especially the decks have moved away from the Elder Deep Fiend. There's actually nothing in the deck that can punch through except for a beefed up Tireless Tracker or a really large Walking Ballista.
Yeah. So we'll see Andrew immediately making 3 Thopters here, not wasting any time. So as you say, the ground has become quite clogged up, and we'll see Kerr's 2 Thopters face off against Andrew's 3 Thopters. Would you expect either player in this situation to be attacking, or is this something you'd leave behind to protect your Planeswalkers once you put one of them on the board?
Yeah, I think given that neither player has played a Planeswalker yet, I think it's okay to start attacking. We know the Rogue Refiner and the Wheel of Virtuoso will trade. The Felidar Guardian can block the Rogue Refiner from Kerr's hand. But I think Andrew being ahead on Thopters, he could have afforded to attack with the Thopters and just, force Kerr to trade because Kerr...
Sorry to interrupt, but here we see that play we mentioned earlier. He's going to harness Lightning to get that Ballista out of the way. That clears the way for the Saheeli to make the combo. So as we were talking about during sideboarding, here we are talking about all these little edges that we can get here and there. Who has more Thopters? Who's drawn a card with Rogue Refiner? But ultimately, the game is decided by the combo. Kerr not having enough lands to protect himself while deploying his own board.
Yeah, Kerr was forced to play cards to look for more lands as opposed to holding up mana to protect himself against the combo. I think it's just quite unfortunate for Kerr that in game 1 that he drew like 5 lands in a row, and then in game 2 kind of got stuck. Not that the game was decided entirely by that, but it made things a bit more difficult for Kerr.
And I'm sure he would have felt more comfortable playing to the value game plan with the Walking Ballista sitting in play. But of course, with Andrew playing the Harness Lightning before playing the Saheeli Rai, Kerr has no choice but to point the damage at a Thopter or Andrew's own face and clearing the way for the Saheeli. So we get a little review of how the players sideboarded, but we do have Andrew coming out victorious in round 4, 2-0 over Kerr.
Yeah, a lot of mirror matches I've seen have gone to time. This one's actually elapsed quite quickly.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it from us for now. We'll see you again soon in round 5.
Sounds good. See you soon.